Jack Pachuta, the Chief Inspector of MysteriesOnTheNet.com, and we will continue talking about the suspects in the perfect murder mystery party that you are writing. If you'd like to get a copy of my workbook, my super secret murder mystery writing workbook, you can go to Writing System at MysteriesOnTheNet.com. Just look for the little tab that says Writing System. You can order it right there. We're still at the Brumder Mansion, the haunted Brumder Mansion in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And let's talk about the suspect synopsis. Before, we talked a little bit about the plot development and the scene development and the victim and who the victim was. Now we're going to round out some things about the suspects. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to give every one of them a name. Now, it's good to give a whimsical name, a name that has a little bit of a meaning, something that will make people smile. In fact, when you are doing a murder mystery party, when you're orchestrating one, groans are better than laughs, because people like a little bit of sarcasm and like a little bit of irony when you're putting together a murder mystery party. So give your suspects names that could be a little on the whimsical side. I have a chef in one of my mysteries. His name is Ramsey Gordon. I hope we all understand the significance of that. One of the people who does greeting cards, who owns a greeting card company in one of my Christmas mysteries, is named Norton Pole. Of course, his son is named Sutton Pole, not to be confused with his two relatives, Easton and Weston Pole. You get the idea. You want to name them and give them a name that has a little bit of a meaning to the people and to the plot itself. Age. You want to give each of your suspects an age. Now, how does age come into play? Well, age sets a person in time in terms of who that person is in relation to every other suspect. People who are of a similar age have similar inputs. People who are exactly the same age could be twins, or they could be long-lost cousins. There are ways to use age as a factor in determining who people are and whether or not they could be suspects. And finally, relationships. Now, we have lots of relationships that we can anticipate here on the wall. We've got a picture right here of a baby. Now, could that be the victim when the victim was young? Or could it be the perpetrator of the crime when the perpetrator of the crime was young? Maybe this was a baby given up for adoption years ago who came back and had a grudge to bear against the deceased. What about this individual? Now, this person, well, based upon the look, they've got a grapevine nearby, could be a vintner, or it could be someone who eventually became someone known in town for enjoying the vines, if you get my drift, too much. What about this picture? Who could this be?
That's my Aunt Flo!
Oh, this is Aunt Flo. Now, Aunt Flo could have had a lot of different things happen to her. Aunt Flo could have married someone who had a bad reputation in town. The fact that Aunt Flo married somebody with a bad reputation could mean that a lot of relationships got entangled. Maybe Aunt Flo left that person. Maybe that person met an untimely death. It's possible that Aunt Flo had an impact, shall we say, upon the death of her first husband, and her second husband could be the victim of this crime. So the relationships are very important. Looking over here, now that handlebar mustache of the person up in that picture, maybe that handlebar mustache is a clue. Maybe there's something about a barber in town, and maybe that barber in town had a specialty, and that specialty was a handlebar mustache, and this is the person who came in most often, and maybe that person had something to do with the crime. The barber could have been one of the witnesses. The barber could have been one of the people that noticed some peculiarities about what was going on. So relationships, they're very important. What about this relationship? Bride and groom. They're married. But who are they? Maybe this is the brother of the deceased. Maybe it's the uncle of the deceased. Maybe this is the deceased's parents. All of them could have an impact on the way that the crime takes place and also upon the plot. So those relationships are extremely important. Then in your suspect synopsis, I want you to put down the contact that the suspects had with the victim. Now, it could have been at a very early age. It's possible that the only contact was through letters. It could have been through newspaper articles. See, it's possible, it's very possible, that someone just read something about this person and carried things to extreme and committed the crime. So what kind of contact did the suspect have with the person? And finally, that contact and the relationship leads to that magic word that we started off this whole process with. That's a motive. After you've determined all of those things, you can create a logical motive for that suspect. Now, these are quick looks at all the suspects. We're going to go into greater depth later. In my workbook, I give you room for 6 suspects. You could have 4, you could have 10. It doesn't make any difference. The process is the same. We will continue in the next program.